Rodeo fans, saddle up for the Cinch World's Toughest Rodeo, presented by RM43, January 9th and 10th at Casey Center. Come early for autographs, pony rides, and more. Get tickets now at HighVTix.com. The buck starts here at the Cinch World's Toughest Rodeo.
Hey, it's Murph and Andy, and we love talking sports and more.
Catch us live at 1 o'clock every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday right here on Iowa Everywhere.
And if you miss it, just go to iowaeverywhere.com. You can watch or listen there or wherever you find your podcasts.
Nate Bargatze.
It's a lot to have two dogs because you got to open the back door and let two dogs out.
Big Dumb Eyes World Tour, Casey Center, Friday, April 24th. Tickets available at natebargatze.com.
Jake Brend and Derek Duke break down everything you need to know throughout the Big 12. This is Bigger Than 12. Presented by Wealth Charter Retirement Planning and Tax. From the Channel Seed Studios, this is Bigger Than 12 on Iowa Everywhere.
Welcome to the Channel Seed Studios. There's no fire behind me, right? Like everything's normal. We're here. It's a Sunday. We're doing Bigger Than 12. And we're going to talk Big 12. We'll talk a little Iowa State. It's impossible to ignore. That's a massive Big 12 storyline. But we'll also talk a little Chris Klieman, K-State. Moving over to Colin Klein, College Football Playoff. We'll recap the Duke's time at Jerry World for the Big 12 Championship. We'll talk some bowl games. We'll have our power rankings. We're going to make this show about as normal as possible as we head into the College Football Playoff. We're brought to you today by Wealth Charter, Retirement Planning and Tax. Wealth Charter up in Ankeny. Tim Hawkins and his team should absolutely be a call for you if you're looking to get your finances in check, which everyone should do. Everyone should be thinking about their finances, especially this time of year as we're heading into the new year. Give Wealth Charter a try at wealthcharterretirement.com. Oh, where do we start, Derek? We just got to start with Texas Tech winning their first ever Big 12 championship, right?
We have to. I think we have to at this point.
You were there. Tell me about it.
Well, I would say it went about as expected for me, at least. We saw these two a month ago in Lubbock, and outside of the first drive for BYU, it went a lot like that game did. I mean, BYU goes 90 yards on the first drive for 6, and then after that, they were held to just 110 yards and 0 points for the remainder of that game. And to make matters worse, BYU turned the ball over 4 times, which pretty much just gave Texas Tech the game on a silver platter, and you just can't do that against a team like Texas Tech. I mean, in the first game, they turned the ball over 3 times. This time, 4 times. You get 7-0 in the turnover margin against Texas Tech in 2 games. You're not going to win either one of those. And there's not really a lot I necessarily took away from that game that I didn't learn the first time around. If there was one thing I didn't like for Tech, it would be the ability to finish drives in opponents' territory. And that's going to be the focus of my Freedom Tire Who Needs a Fix there. Texas Tech just settled for way too many field goals in this game, or simply just punted the ball away. There were several times throughout that game where Texas Tech makes a great play defensively, especially Ben Roberts, we'll talk about here in a bit. You get a takeaway, you're deep in the opponent's territory, and you just really can't move the ball. Several of those times you weren't even able to get a first down, and you literally had to punt the ball away. Settling for field goals with Stone Harrington, who missed a couple kicks. So I don't like seeing that, and I feel like every time when I watch Tech, their offense has yet to really wow me because they haven't been great when it comes to that. But it's hard for me to bitch about it because they're beating everyone by 20 points, so nobody really talks about it much. But once you get in the playoff in these tight, tense moments, points are going to be at a premium. So at some point, this offense will need to start punching it in for more than what they are now, because it could end up costing them for a chance to play for a national championship.
Yeah, they're going to have to play Oregon they win that, they'll most likely have to play Indiana. BYU, we'll get into it, is a good to pretty good team, and I think we've learned through 2 games of Tech and BYU facing off is that BYU just isn't an elite team, and I think we knew that. But that's kind of been the story of these 2 games, right? Like after Lubbock, we said, my gosh, if Tech just finished drives, they would have won that game by 45. Kind of the same deal. I was watching, of course, during the Iowa State-Purdue game, and I wasn't able to watch in real time as intently as I probably normally would, but I had the game on my laptop, and I swear every time I looked down, a turnover or a big sack or something, like, oh, Tech's going to get the ball back in great position, and then I look again 5 minutes later, and they're kicking a field goal. Outside of the Coy Aiken touchdown, I believe right after the first Ben Roberts interception, like that was about the only time it felt like they truly capitalized on one of those opportunities. And you're right, they're going to have to do that. They're going to have to hit that rate a lot higher than they have been if they want to beat teams like Oregon, Indiana, and then whoever else they might face down the road if they get there.
And for that reason alone, that's like why I felt like BYU was in this game to begin with. I mean, you look in the third quarter with 6 minutes left, it's a one-possession ball game. It wasn't necessarily completely done. Like in the first game, that game felt over at halftime. Just the way Tech was so dominant in that game, and BYU didn't score a touchdown until the fourth quarter in that game in Lubbock. But this time around, it was a little different. I would say just maybe in a reverse order where BYU scores first and early, and then they just don't do anything for the rest of the game. But it was quite the day there at Jerry World. And as for the good that I saw in this game, I do want to give a tip of the cap to the Big 12. The game in Jerry World, which is going to be the focus of my Carbliss refreshing take of the week, which is going to be this. In a day and age where people say that conference championship games don't matter, hell, you just look at the ACC's attendance in Charlotte on Saturday. But for the Big 12 to have Texas Tech and BYU playing in front of a packed house, over 85,000 people were there, which I can confirm. Every seat in that place was full. Even the top row was packed. It made for a great atmosphere, and you could feel the energy in that place all around, especially the Tech fans who really packed it in since with Red, because I would say the split of that game, I don't know if you could see it on TV, it was probably about 80-20. But it was, again, it was refreshing to see that, and they actually set a record for a power conference attendance for a championship game there on Saturday. Awesome. So that was really, really good publicity for the Big 12 on Saturday.
That's really cool to see. It's also I'm glad we had a little bit of contrast between the 2 uniforms, because last year you couldn't tell how many Iowa State fans were there, and you couldn't tell how many Arizona State fans were there because they were all wearing the same color. My gosh, that was a year ago.
It was. Yeah.
Sorry, I got sidetracked in my own head. But yeah, I thought it looked great on TV. I thought the noise certainly came across on TV. And good for Tech fans. They absolutely deserve it. That's a really good fan base. That's a really strong fan base. They just completely, regardless of the resources and all that stuff, I know they'll get that thrown in their face, in which to that I would say, good for them. Good for them for having the resources, and even better, good for them for backing it up. Like, Texas has a lot of resources. They went a whole decade without winning a Big 12 championship. Florida State has a lot of the resources. They suck. Miami's had as many resources as anybody. They've sucked for a lot of... So, like, you can get into the resource conversation all we want, but Joey Maguire went out and won it and backed it up with the resources. And he spent those resources wisely. I think there's a lot of morons with money like Cody Campbell, morons in sports terms. You don't get that rich by being dumb. But there's a lot of rich donors out there that want to pledge all their money to their program, and they want to go buy AJ Storr, for example, at Kansas last year. They want to go buy the shiny toy. They want to go buy the production. Guess what Cody Campbell did? He wouldn't spend his money on some beef, and it paid off. They've got the best D-line in the country, and they've got a chance to win a national championship because of the D-line. And I think Campbell, I think Maguire, I think they deserve worlds of credit for how they invested into the trenches.
And I hate that that's all some people focus on. There were some media members there, like that's all they wanted to talk about was how much money Tech spent. Like nobody's asking these questions to Florida. Nobody's asking these questions to Alabama. Nobody's asking these questions to Texas or Texas A&M for that matter. So it was a little frustrating. And somebody asked Jacob Rodriguez about the resources, the money that they spent to quote unquote buy this team. And Rodriguez said, well, I mean, if you're going to spend money and a lot of money on a team, why not buy a good one? And he's exactly right on that. So, and I'm glad you mentioned Joey Maguire here, Jake, because, you know, while we're here, I think, screw it, I'm going to triple up here on all my awards. Joey Maguire, you, sir, are going to be my monster beast of the week.
Beast of the week.
Is that new music for that? That is.
I don't know. I probably clicked the wrong one. Aiden Wyatt is not producing today. He's flying back from Texas, which we talked for like 45 minutes before we even recorded, and I forgot to ask how seeing Aiden was. Shows where my freaking mind is. Oh, here's the music.
There we go. We got that fixed.
This is why Aiden does this stuff. He's so much better at it than
That's why he gets paid all the big bucks.
Yeah.
For all the
why
people,
he wins awards.
Exactly. For all the people that doubted Joey Maguire, like my co-host over here did, for all the people that hate Texas Tech or just don't like Joey, all this man did was win. People wondered how someone can get all this money, buy players, and make it all come together. That's exactly what Joey Maguire did. And Jake, I don't know if you've ever met him or talked to him before. He is literally one of the nicest coaches I have ever met. And I've said this on the show time and time again, that he was building this program up, that he wasn't the fastest riser, but they were a program that was slowly trending up. And for all that money Tech spent and paid, they cashed in on Saturday, and it was in large part to Joey building chemistry within that team and making the right coaching hires. And you looking back at his career now, he talked about in the postgame, this is the second time that he's left Jerry World with a championship. Not only as a high school coach all these years ago, now as a college head coach. Joey Maguire, cheers to you for being my monster beast of the week.
Did anyone ask him the comparison between winning a high school championship and the Big 12 championship yesterday? Like, how different those felt for him? Or how similar, I guess, would maybe be a better phrase for it.
You know what was funny? This is just crazy. You don't see this often. Almost his entire staff, his coaching staff, in the pregame, they were wearing the Texas High School Coaches Association hats. All of them. All of them were. So he definitely knows where he's paid his dues before. And he did say something about when they were pulling up on the bus to Jerry World, to AT&T Stadium. He said he mentioned to one of his coaches there, he goes, I guess I'm back. And he goes, hello. He said, hello, old friend, because the last time he was there coaching a game, it was for a state championship. So that was a really cool moment for Joey to kind of come full circle there as a head coach.
He deserves a lot of credit, too, for how we built Tech up before all of this.
Yep.
They weren't college football playoff contenders, don't get me wrong. They weren't really even Big 12 contenders. But he took over a program that was in a lot of trouble. Like they'd been underperforming year after year after year after year, and it all started back in 2022. And I don't think that roster he had was great, but he won a couple games and he won a couple unexpected games. I believe they went 8-4 that year, and that was kind of the start of all this. It was a little up and down in 2023, certainly up and down in 2024, and then he does it in 2025. So good for Joey Maguire. We'll reserve our BYU conversation for right now. The BYU Cougars get left out of the college football playoff. Texas Tech does earn themselves an automatic bye. As the 4 seed, they will await the winner of Oregon and James Madison in the semifinals on January 1st. Derek, your thoughts on what transpired with the committee?
I think just to sum it all up, it's just complete bullshit. And Jake, you're probably going to have some more educated thoughts than I will on this because I feel like I've just been bitching about this week after week after week, and I could see this coming. I'm not surprised BYU isn't in. Like, I'm really not, and it's not because they don't deserve to be in. It's because the committee has failed to show them any respect whatsoever this entire year since the rankings initially came out a month ago. It's been like that every week. And I even mentioned before, Utah, their in-state rival Utah, the last couple weeks of the season, they've won games. They didn't lose games, they won games, and they were continuously getting pushed back further down the list so Miami could jump them. BYU gets bumped down again so Miami can jump them. It's just been completely frustrating to watch. And it makes no sense. Like, some of these arguments that they have are just mind-boggling stupid. What are we talking about? BYU is 11-1 entering the conference championship weekend. 11-1. And Brett Yormark said before the game, he had a little presser, there's never been a team that goes into conference championship weekend 11-1 and got left out of a playoff. Ever. Going into that final ranking.
And that includes the 4-team playoff, I'm guessing.
Yes, it did include the 4-team playoff. And he's right. It makes no sense. And then we're comparing the thing that frustrates me the most. They're comparing on ESPN, they're comparing resumes. They're not even putting BYU on the graphic. And I was sitting in Kalani Sitake's presser after the game. He made a crack about that. He said, who else in the country has had to play the best team in America twice? We have. And he said that, and I believe it 100% that he's right. I think Texas Tech may be the best team in the country. Both of their losses are to the number 4 team in the nation. Like, what are we doing here? Alabama, for instance, doesn't get bumped down at all for losing a conference championship game, which they got dominated in against the number 3 team in the country, against Georgia. Yet they don't get moved down. But when BYU loses to the number 4 team, they get bumped down. So that whole thing to me has just been completely frustrating for me, and you see BYU's Twitter account just still tweeting out nonstop. I love it. But it's been frustrating for everyone around BYU, whether you like them or not. It's got to be frustrating for the Big 12 as well.
There's so many different ways to go with this, and I've wrestled with this in my head all day, because do I think BYU's one of the 12 best teams in America? I don't think so at this point, but I don't know that for sure. And when you factor in the graphics and the fact that it doesn't even feel like BYU was actually considered. If you could tell me with 100% certainty that the committee actually, with their full heart, with their full brain, actually considered BYU and determined that it should go the other way, I can live with that. I can live with that because on-field product matters. But I don't think that's what happened. And I don't think it's ever going to happen with the Big 12. And it's unfair. I think it's nonsense. And I think it's easy to watch that game and think about, oh yeah, BYU doesn't belong. But then you're just ignoring, okay, what would Notre Dame look like in this game? What would Miami look like in this game? It's hypotheticals. We don't know. What would Alabama look in this game? How do we have any idea that Georgia is better than Texas Tech? How are those weighed differently? I can tell you why. It's because of the logo on the helmet. It's because of the conference patch on their jersey. That's why. I don't care if you drop BYU for getting dominated by one of the 3 best teams in America. Just do the same to Alabama. That's all I ask. I'm perfectly content if you want to tell me Alabama's a top 10 team. I think they probably are. I think they're one of the 10 best teams in America. But you've got to weigh in their loss to Florida State. That's got to mean something. It happened week 1. They didn't just get upset. They got crushed. They got crushed by a bad team. Bad. That's what Florida State is. Is there talent on their roster? Absolutely. There's talent on every roster across America. The fact of the matter, Florida State sucks. And they ran Alabama off the field. And that's got to matter. As far as dropping BYU, I don't completely agree with the process in which Miami jumped into the top 12. I think they probably deserved it. I think they should have been ahead of Notre Dame. But to me, this feels like something where when they made their initial rankings, I don't know if they thought this would be a possibility. I don't think they thought it would come down to Notre Dame versus Miami. Like, I never disagreed along the way that, yeah, Notre Dame should be in the top 10 and Miami should be in the 20s when they were losing those games. But I think it's pathetic that the rankings came out on Tuesday with BYU sandwiched in between them and BYU dropped behind them based off of a loss in the conference championship in a game that they earned by performance on the field. In a game that Notre Dame literally cannot play in because they're not in a conference and they're cowards. Sorry, I'm just rambling. I think you get where I'm going, though. I just treat everyone fairly, even if I don't think BYU's a top 12 team. Guess what? Neither's frickin' James Madison, and they're in the playoff. It's broken. So broken.
And they want you to feel like when I was listening to the show on my drive down, I had it on just audio only, and I could just hear them just bitching and crying about Notre Dame, how they feel. Like, what does BYU feel like? They got dropped. Like, Notre Dame, where were Notre Dame and Miami during conference championship weekend? Where were they at? They were sitting at home. And how does Miami get bumped up? BYU has a better strength of schedule and a strength of record than Notre Dame and Miami. And they have more losses than BYU. Miami lost to Louisville and SMU, who I believe at the time were both unranked or finished unranked.
Correct.
Notre Dame, they have two top 10 losses. BYU has one top 10 loss, now 2 after being in the conference championship game.
And
they're getting punished.
Their best win is Utah. Notre Dame's best win is USC. It's comparable at best. At worst, Utah's, I would say, a tick above USC. So, like, they're pretty equal resumes, except the fact that before a game that can't hurt you, we've been told that losing a conference championship can't hurt you. It's just the 13th data point. Well, guess what? It hurt BYU. And before that game, they had a comparable resume to Notre Dame. And it doesn't end up mattering because they both get left out. But my gosh, just make it equal. Thanks to Freedom Tire, they're presenting my Who Needs a Fix. That's what it was. I probably should have prefaced that. I didn't really realize until I was halfway through my discussion that was my Freedom Tire Who Needs a Fix locations in Altoona, Ames, Des Moines, West Des Moines, Urbandale. I was at a wedding last night. We got like 3 inches of snow in Ankeny. I was at a wedding in Fort Dodge. Shout out our loyal listener, All Gas, No Breakfast, who's from Fort Dodge.
Really? That is awesome.
He sure is.
Oh.
Get this, though. Fort Dodge got the most snow of any place in the state. They got 8 inches. And it all happened in like a 4-hour span while I was at this wedding. So you're at a wedding, you don't want to carry around a bunch of stuff. I don't have a coat. I'm just wearing a dress shirt, and they're like the nice, I don't know what the material is, but it's like almost dry fit, very comfy. Don't need an undershirt for that. So I'm pretty much walking in almost a foot of snow. Dress shoes, one very light dress shirt. And then our designated driver, of course, drove us home, and I was glad that Freedom Tire's taking care of me because we took my car. I got the horsepower with mine,
Okay.
so we made it perfectly fine. The city of Fort Dodge actually did a really good job with snow removal, so we appreciate Freedom Tire for making that possible. But I can now cross a wedding and a blizzard off my bucket list. I'll truly never forget that. There's like 4 or 5 empty tables because there's just a lot of people that were going to come up from Des Moines like the day of, go back that night that unfortunately couldn't make the trip.
Shout out Fort Dodge. And you were just wearing like a light shirt through that blizzard?
Yeah.
You're lucky your nips didn't just rip right through that damn shirt.
I mean, I didn't have to walk that far. I had a coat in my car. I just didn't want to carry it around with me.
I got you. Okay. All right. That's
But it wasn't even I left my winter coat here. I'm telling you, dude, these last 72 hours of work have just thrown my entire life in a loop. I think I've slept a total of 12 hours the last 3 days.
Why? Did something happen on Friday?
I haven't eaten. We're recording this at 6 o'clock. I haven't eaten a thing all day.
Oh.
Gonna get on that after this show.
I had some barbecue with Aiden, by the way. It was fantastic.
Thanks for rubbing it in.
One more thing I'll say on BYU real quick. It's so frustrating that they're not even, we're comparing all these resumes and BYU's just an afterthought for everybody. And the other thing is, we were talking about Notre Dame. You saw that they skipped their bowl game.
Mm-hmm.
They decided to not play their bowl game, so they're taking their ball and going home. And I just wonder now that looking at the future, are more teams going to start doing this? Because if they just get pissed off at the committee. And the other thing is, too, I thought about, I don't know, you said, I don't know how much you got to watch of the SEC title game. Did you listen to any of the audio from like Kirk Herbstreit, Chris Fowler?
I did not. I'll admit, I got to be honest with the audience. I didn't watch a snap of the SEC championship.
Well, it was domination.
That's why I didn't go back and rewatch it because I've seen that story before. But yeah, I can imagine what Herbstreit was crying about.
He had a moment. I know that dog gets treated better than I do. There was a moment in the game where he said something about BYU saying, well, Alabama shouldn't be penalized, get penalized for playing in this game and losing to a tough one to Georgia. I don't think any conference championship game loser should get penalized. But he made an exception for BYU getting penalized because, he was at that game in Lubbock. He called the game against Tech and BYU. BYU just got so dominated. It was so one-sided that BYU didn't deserve to compete with these top teams in the playoff. And I'm thinking to myself, so what? They lost to a top 4 team in the country, and these other schools that we're comparing resumes with didn't even they lost to unranked teams, to similar teams. What are we talking about here? And then I don't know if this is a conspiracy theory or if I'm just maybe a little crazy. The one thing I wanted to say is why I think Alabama did not get moved down from the conference after losing the conference championship game the way they did, and they got dominated and their ass kicked by Georgia. Last year, a 9-3 Alabama team gets left out of the playoff. What did we hear about all offseason long from Greg Sankey? He bitched, he complained, he was using PowerPoints, data points. He was doing everything and then he goes on the air, by the way, before that game saying he thinks that 7 SEC teams should be in the playoff this year, which that's a whole nother topic for a different day.
He's a moron. I'd argue there should be 12.
Yeah. And it's just I really think some people in college football that run the sport and in that committee room were afraid to bump Alabama down because maybe they're afraid the SEC does their own thing, or maybe they take away conference championship weekend altogether because they're going to be afraid to lose another spot in the playoffs. So I think that they are scared of Greg Sankey in the SEC. And guess what? When they leave the Big 12 out, do you think they're going to get much backlash at all for doing that? Probably not. Brett Yormark should be pissed. I think Brett Yormark should be going to the press and the media. I think the one thing that I would be critical of him and would say, he's waited a little bit too long to hop on the BYU train when he should have been doing that kind of from day one.
Yeah.
And I think he was a little late to the party when it came to that. And I think if he would have done it earlier, maybe it would help. But if I were Brett Yormark, I'd be sending them emails and letters nonstop, and I would do the exact same thing Greg Sankey did a year ago.
I do want to add this caveat where the situations aren't entirely comparable because Alabama did beat Georgia in the regular season. I think that should at least be considered, and it was in Athens. But I'm still in complete agreement with you. If you drop one down, you drop the other.
Gotta drop the others.
I'm not arguing BYU to be in the playoff over Alabama. I can't rightfully say that in my own conscience, but they should be treated the same. And that's that.
I think the resumes are somewhat comparable, and then you have one less loss. But again, you're right. You can't bump one down and not the other. It just makes no sense.
Yeah. Well, let's get to Matt Campbell.
God, we're just going to keep getting more depressing on the show.
Dude. I have no food. I was gonna go to the grocery store Friday. I was supposed to hit the gym. I had pickup basketball scheduled. I was excited to watch the Group of 5 conference championships at night. Wasn't able to do any of that. Couldn't go to the grocery store, so this day is just going to get more and more depressing because after we talk about Matt Campbell, I'm going to have to go. I might eat some crackers or something for dinner.
Should go to Whiskey River. Good burger.
That's a good call out of you there, Duke.
It is.
I might just have to do that. Watch your Texans take on the Chiefs. Well, Matt Campbell is off to Penn State. I don't think we need to spend a ton of time on details. If you're listening to the show and you don't know what's happened, you are a part of the 0.1%. I guess I wanted to just leave this up to you, Derek. I've talked plenty about this across all of our Cyclone Fanatic and Iowa Everywhere platforms. I'm kind of curious what your thoughts on everything that's transpired.
Pissed, angry, defeated. I feel like most Iowa State fans when they heard the news. I mean, Jake, obviously you know this topic better than anyone out there. I mean, you practically slept in the facilities there in Ames covering all this. The more I think about it, as the times passed, I think the less surprised I am. And one thing Jamie Pollard said after the news was, Matt Campbell owes Iowa State nothing. And Campbell gave you 10 years to Iowa State, and what a damn decade it was. He leaves as the winningest coach in school history. He's one of 5 Big 12 coaches in the history of the Big 12 to win 50 or more games, 2 Big 12 title appearances, a New Year's Six bowl win. I mean, Matt Campbell was the best coach to ever walk the sidelines at Jack Trice Stadium, and he raised the bar for Iowa State football. He did more than anyone could have asked for, and then some. And for him to turn down job after job, whether it was from the NFL or from another blue blood school with just unlimited amount of money and resources, you have to respect what he's done in Ames. Like, Iowa State football is in better shape than it was before when a new coach had to come in. And now you really can't tell the story, the history of Iowa State football without bringing up Matt Campbell. And I'm not mad at him for leaving, and nor do I blame him. He made a decision that's best for him and his family, and he went to a place like Penn State. I mean, that when Penn State comes calling with that amount of money and what they're offering, it's hard for any of us to sit here and criticize him for taking the offer. And as for Jimmy Rogers, we can forget about Washington State, the new coach. His body of work was at South Dakota State, where he was a coach for over a decade. Took over there, had 2 fantastic seasons as the head coach, and with a national championship, a semifinals appearance. So this is one of those hires where I feel like that it may not be considered sexy by some, but neither was Matt Campbell when he was hired, when he got the job 10 years ago. So I think this is going to be one of those times where if you're going to have faith, that you just have to trust that Jamie Pollard made the right move here and just kind of keep the wheels rolling. Because like I said, you want to kind of keep this program moving forward. You don't want to take steps back. But again, what Matt Campbell did in Ames was just unbelievable. It was truly the golden era of Iowa State football, and you have to thank him for that and for staying for so long.
There's been so many emotions with it, just on my end. One, as a fan that grew up in the stands and absolutely loved Matt Campbell coached Iowa State football. Those were some of the best moments of my life, being in the stands for the 2017 TCU game, being there for Brock Purdy's senior day, watching Breece Hall break all these records. There's been countless memories that in my opinion, are not soured at all. Not even in the slightest is there any bitterness or any sourness towards Matt Campbell. For you talking about how it's the golden years and how it's the best era ever, I guess what I've been wrestling with is not the hiring of Jimmy Rogers. I still don't know enough about him. It's impossible to know enough about him until we actually see the product on the field. This is not me saying anything about Rogers as a coach, as a person. This could be said about if they were to go get Matt Entz from North Dakota State, if they hired Jason Eck from New Mexico. For me, the entire internal debate that I've had has just been the internal versus external. Should they have just hired Mauser and kept as much good from, like you said, the best era in the history of the program, or should they have essentially reset? And Jamie Pollard chose the reset. I don't agree with that decision. However, I think Pollard has earned the right to do what he feels is best. He hired TJ Altenberger. He hired Matt Campbell. He hired Fred Hoiberg when Fred Hoiberg had never been a coach in any way possible. So Pollard has earned all of those decisions, but I guess in my professional opinion, you're not firing a guy. This is not the Paul Rhodes. This is not Steve Prohm. You're not trying to get rid of everything that era was about, especially in the case of Steve Prohm. You're trying. This is the first time Iowa State's been in that position where someone leaves you for a better opportunity in football. At least someone leaves you to go somewhere else and leaves the cupboard full. I think you should have taken advantage of that full cupboard, or keep it as full as you possibly could have, because by the time this episode gets uploaded, who knows what change could be next. It's already been reported that Derek Hoodger is going to State College. He's probably been the unsung hero, the most underrated aspect of the entire Campbell era. There's been reports of multiple assistant coaches going with Campbell, and this Jimmy Rogers very, very well could be an awesome coach, and he very well could be the next Matt Campbell. He could be the next Iowa State coach that takes them to a Big 12 championship game. And if that happens, I'll be there to give Pollard all the credit for taking that risk. But I'm also I'm not sure. It's hard to gauge when the hire happened 48 hours ago.
Yeah, and it just happens so fast. Thursday you hear the reports, and then Friday it happens, and then before even Penn State announces that Matt Campbell's going to be their head coach, Iowa State announces they're bringing a new coach. But you're right. I think you're right in both senses, because it'd be one thing after you think about the 2021 season when Brock Purdy and stuff, they're all gone. It was going to be a full change. There's going to be a lot of new faces here. We're going to try to rebuild this program, get back to playing for a Big 12 championship. I think you looked at next year's team and roster, and you could say, hey, we have a chance next year to maybe win 10 games, get back to Jerry World. I think you were looking at that and saying, hey, if we can keep this intact, we still have a chance to go be really competitive next year, be a Big 12 title contender, where now you're worried about players leaving when the transfer portal opens back up. It's going to be a whole reset, a whole cleaning of staff. So there's going to be a lot of changes for the better and for the worse. So we'll find out. Only time's going to tell, but you're right. I think you just have to trust Jamie Pollard at this point with, which he's had a proven track record of hiring coaches. So we'll see how it works out. It may work out. It may not work out. I think for me personally, I will say this one more thing on Campbell is he's probably had a big part of me, having my ties with Iowa State, becoming a fan. So it was a little hard for me to see him go because, without Matt Campbell there, I don't know if I'm here. To be honest with you, I really don't.
Yeah.
So it was a little emotional for me. It was a little heartbreaking for me to see him go. Not as much as, you guys that have put the blood, sweat, tears, and being a fan for your entire life. Nothing to that extent, but it was a little sad for me as well to see him go because, again, it was just such a great decade of Iowa State football. And now you just hope that, Rodgers can continue that and continue building on what Matt Campbell's left him. So we'll see how it goes. It's going to be a lot of changes. I think that's the safe thing to say as of right now.
Glad you could share the same sentiment as Josh Pate and being extremely upset for your favorite team that Matt Campbell left.
I'm not even going to get into that.
Sorry.
Damn asshole.
No, it was emotional. Like, if you follow me on social media, you could probably tell right around midnight when I kind of got all my work done and finally got on the road and just thought about it. It's like, dang, that's a lot of memories. That's an entire era. It makes the guys in the NFL, not that they're not Cyclones, but they're Campbell guys. Yeah. So you watch Charlie Kohler have a big play today during the Ravens game. And it's not that I'm not happy for Chuck. Like, Kohler was awesome. And it's not that he doesn't even feel a part of Iowa State anymore. It felt a little different watching that. And I can't even pinpoint it. It's probably just that emotional battle inside my heart of like, it is a new era. And I've got to get myself professionally just on the other side of this because there's a press conference tomorrow morning, Monday morning, whenever you're listening to this, there's a press conference for the new head coach, and there's going to be a lot of turnover. There's going to be new staff to learn about. There's going to be new players come January to learn about and study about. I got to study his defense. Like, a four-man front is seemingly coming back to Ames.
Crazy.
Like, it's time to actually talk football, and you thank Campbell, you thank Mauser, Hoodger, Haycock, all the guys that were a part of it, all the players that made it possible. But those guys are elsewhere now. Most of them are seemingly going to be in State College, and I'm not a Penn State reporter. I'm not. I'm an Iowa State reporter, and I think a lot of the fan base soon will kind of get in that mode of this is our guy. He's going to guarantee he gets introduced at the Cy-Hawk basketball game, which Hilton is just going to be on fire. And that's going to be freaking awesome. And it's time to move on to the new era, as hard as that is, if people don't want it to happen.
It's always hard replacing the guy who was the guy. You know what I mean?
No kidding.
So he's got some big shoes to fill. I will say this, though. Yesterday I was waiting for, to pick up some grub on my way back to the hotel.
Just rub it in.
Yeah, I know. I saw the video of the people just waiting outside of Jack Trice in the snow, tailgating out there. That was, I think it was Chad Settle was one of those guys posting videos. He's got the Cyclone Fanatic flag flying high, and it was just so damn cool to see the support that they have for the new head coach and, waiting out there in the cold and just having a good time, making the most of it. So that was really cool to see. And that's why I think Iowa State fans are just some of the best out there.
In that same vein, Colin Klein is now the head coach of Kansas State. It's crazy how this story feels so irrelevant, and it's not because of the story. It's just the timing of it. This all went down on Tuesday, I believe. It was early in the week, and similar to Campbell, this was kind of a package deal. We're like, all right, Campbell's gone, Rodgers hired. Less than 5 minutes later. With this, I almost moved past Klieman retiring immediately because it's, Klein's coming back. And that's a home run for Kansas State. I don't know how they could be in any better position going forward, other than if they lived up to expectations this year and you've got a loaded roster coming back for their senior year. But circumstances considered, I don't know how you could be any happier as a K-State fan.
Yeah, and I had heard a few things about Klieman throughout the year, thanks to my guy Joe Tillery over at Heartland College Sports. He's in the loop for anything Kansas State, and he was mentioning some things about Klieman calling it quits earlier in the year. So, and it was really a frustrating year for Kansas State. I mean, you're predicted to go to Arlington, be a Big 12 title contender. That didn't happen. They ended up going 6-6, which was extremely disappointing for everyone inside and outside of that program. But I will say that Chris Klieman was a great guy. He won a Big 12 title 3 years ago, had some big wins over Oklahoma over the years. But the fact is that the last 2 seasons that they've been frustrating to say the least. But I do wish him a happy retirement. And he's also, he's an Iowa guy, as as well. Yeah. So you got to have some respect for him. But looking towards the future there, I love the hire. Colin Klein was going to be their guy someday, and it just so happens that probably came a little sooner than expected. But you just look what he did at Kansas State as a player, as a coach. Makes the move to go to Texas A&M to be the OC. They have an amazing offense there, by the way. I don't know how many people watch A&M football. Marcel Reed is a fantastic quarterback. A&M ends up going 11-1, college football playoff berth, and a big reason why is because of Colin Klein and his coaching abilities. And one thing I will say that stood out to me during his presser was he said this quote, and it was, "Some teams like to visit physicality. We want to live there." I mean, that line made me want to run through a brick wall. I mean, you talk about a great fit, great guy, a good coach. I think Kansas State's going to be in good hands with him at the helm.
That leads me into my Carbliss refreshing take. That's not Carbliss. That's Matt Campbell.
There you go.
I think about taking a sip of Carbliss anytime I see a picture of Matt Campbell. I just get reminded. My Carbliss refreshing take, premium handcrafted cocktails, is Kansas State did the right thing. Obviously, Klieman retired. I don't think this was a true 100%. It's time for me to be done retirement. There was probably some mutual agreement there, but it was time. Chris Klieman, a really good coach, won a Big 12 championship. It just got stale, and it felt like they couldn't come back from the start to the season they had. And there's a lot of programs that have disappointing years. There's a lot of programs that have down years. It's really hard for a program to have as many expectations as K-State did, while also being pretty consistently steady for so long. Like, it's a different conversation than our friends down in Waco, where they've had some high highs, but they don't sustain it. K-State is typically that 8, 9, 10-win team each year, and when they've got a really special player like Deuce Vaughn, or when they've got a really special quarterback in Colin Klein, that's where they really take the next step. And to me, it felt like this roster coming into the year was that Big 12 championship caliber roster. And whether it was coaching, whether it was a misevaluation of talent, whatever it was, they didn't hit their ceiling and they didn't come anywhere close. In fact, they hit their head on the floor. And I think when you can get the hottest OC, one of the hottest OCs in the country, one of the top assistants in the entire country, you do it. Because I can tell you this, K-State, and this is not I'm a petty person, and I like to have fun and troll some K-State fans on Twitter. This is not coming from that place. If Colin Klein wasn't a graduate of Kansas State, he's not taking that job. That's the reality of it. Klein is getting a better job than Kansas State, but you've got a guy that has so many ties to your program and is arguably the best player in the history of your program. It's a perfect homecoming. It's a match made in heaven, and Kansas State absolutely nails a home run, and that's my Carbliss refreshing take of the week.
It's a good one. I think it's a fantastic hire for them. Easy transition, too.
Did you know I'm an idiot? You can say, yeah, like it won't offend me.
I better be careful what I'm saying here. You're producing the show today. Yeah, sometimes.
I forgot to give out my Beast of the Week.
I was going to mention that after the show, but you want to break it out now?
Well, how about you have a freaking spine and tell me during the show while I'm doing it wrong? My Beast of the Week is Ben Roberts.
Beast of the Week.
We already talked about the game enough, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but Ben Roberts absolutely deserves his flowers. 2 interceptions, both come in the third quarter, and both come as Texas Tech moves on to win their first ever Big 12 championship. There's so much talk about Heisman Trophy candidate Jacob Rodriguez, and there's so much talk about the defensive line that is dynamite. But man, this Ben Roberts, he's been pretty good all year too. And it's cool to see another guy get his flowers because, like Maguire said after the game on the field, like that's a together team. And Roberts goes out there, has his moment. He's been a Red Raider for 3 years. He's gonna have that room in a good place next year when Jacob Rodriguez graduates. So Ben Roberts is very worthy of my Monster Beast of the Week, brought to you by the Beast Hard Seltzer.
Yeah, he made 2 just incredible interceptions in that. I mean, fantastic plays.
Yeah, that's what I forgot to mention. They were so cool. Like it wasn't just thrown right to him. It was really good linebacker play, being able to anticipate where the ball was going, having a one-handed catch. Good stuff out of Ben Roberts.
Yep, he was my MVP for the game. That's who I voted for.
He was having a good time in Jerry World, just like you can have a good time at Whiskey River.
Looking for a good time? Thought so. Whiskey River is just the place. We've got the booze, the food, the vibe, and the amazing rooftop patio. The only thing missing is you. Whiskey River.
Whiskey River has locations in Ankeny and Ames, and they have dressed it up completely for Christmas. It's a real good time to go on down to Whiskey River. Awesome food, cold beer. I'm telling you, I actually might go tonight.
You should.
I need an escape.
I'd love to
for
go
an
there
hour.
for Sunday Night Football. That'd be great.
Even just for an hour, if I can go get a great burger. Thanks to Whiskey River. They bring us our Big 12 top 5 power rankings. Let me start. I'm going. That's not the power rankings. Here we go. That's the power rankings. I am going with Texas Tech 1. Easy. BYU 2. Utah 3. Arizona 4. And the Kansas State Wildcats 5. They jumped so high in my power rankings just because of the Colin Klein hire.
So you're going to put them over Willie Fritz, the guy you've been clamoring for all year long. There's no way. No.
I'm not saying who would win right now if we played. I'm just like talking momentum of the program, where they're heading.
Okay, well, where would Iowa State rank in that momentum of the program right now? And
probably like 12. 12, 13.
That's fair. No, I'm not changing.
Is it fair to go with K-State? Is it a reach?
No.
I just didn't want to do what you did and send the exact same top 5 as last week.
Why? I'm not the committee. I'm not going to bump down BYU for losing the conference championship game. No, I'm Tech at 1. If I could put a gap between 1 and 2, I would just write the giant word gap between Tech and BYU, and then obviously Utah still at 3, Arizona at 4, and then no, I'm not moving Houston out of my top 5 for Kansas State. Great hire, love the hire again, but I'm not moving Houston out of my top 5.
I just figured I'd get creative, right? One of us has to do it.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever been called that I'm not a creative person. I'd like to think I am.
I'm joking. Hey, you created the Big 12 buzz from scratch. You pretty much created this show from scratch. You're creative. Giving you a hard time. Big 12 Survivor. Sorry to the 10 brave souls that picked BYU to beat Texas Tech. So 99 people move on.
Didn't you pick BYU?
I did. I did it just to be like a contrarian.
So I win.
My reasoning, though, makes sense.
the math.
I stand by it still. But yeah, 99 people will be getting an email. Probably not today. We'll leak it into the bowl season. It's going to be a pick'em. There's, as of now, 8 bowl games that involve Big 12 teams. That includes Texas Tech in the college football playoff. BYU will face Georgia Tech in the Pop-Tarts Bowl. Glad that the Yellow Jackets actually want to be there. The Alamo Bowl will be TCU and USC. The Vegas Bowl, Utah is taking on Nebraska. Give me the Utes in that one. The Holiday Bowl, Duke, this email you sent me is wrong. Why is SMU on there twice? You've got SMU playing LSU in the Holiday Bowl?
No,
or in
LSU
the Texas Bowl?
In the Texas Bowl.
Gotcha.
I apologize.
So the Holiday Bowl is Arizona at SMU or against SMU.
Yep.
The Texas Bowl is Houston and LSU. The Liberty Bowl is Cincy taking on Navy. And the Sun Bowl is Arizona State against Duke.
Yes.
Duke, what's your thoughts on these bowl draws?
Well, I love that Texas Tech got a bye. The Pop-Tarts Bowl that's going to be one physical-ass game between BYU and Georgia Tech. Those are two teams that love running the football. Alamo Bowl, TCU, USC, that kind of has a little pizzazz to it. I guess it's kind of a unique matchup to see USC in the Alamo Bowl. Utah, Nebraska, I think both of us are just hoping that Utah just beats the dog shit out of Nebraska. The Holiday Bowl, I don't really care. I mean, the Texas Bowl with LSU and Houston, I mean, that's probably going to be a decently attended game, at least for LSU side of things. I'm sure they're going to travel over to the bowl game. But any chance you get an opportunity to face an SEC team and get a win, I think that's always good. I would say the Arizona State versus Duke matchup in the Sun Bowl might be interesting for Arizona
that's
State.
Fascinating.
To get a chance to beat the ACC champion. That would be pretty fun. I think the worst game on this bowl list is probably Cincinnati and Navy. Like, if you're a Cincy fan, you've got to travel to Memphis, and then you get
at least
to
it's
play,
close-ish,
I guess, and then you get to play Navy. I know Navy's like pretty good, but as a fan, like, there's no way that game excites you at all to go.
I can't even enjoy watching Memphis when they play at home. Just the side of the Liberty Bowl gives me the heebie-jeebies. I guess that's the one positive.
Would you rather play Navy at the Liberty Bowl or Army at the Pop-Tarts Bowl in Orlando?
Man. Give me Army at the Pop-Tarts Bowl.
Okay.
I hate Orlando. I like Memphis, the city, way more than I like Orlando. Don't get me wrong. But, man, that stadium sucks. The Liberty Bowl stadium sucks. It's cold and rainy anytime Iowa State goes there. Just give me the sunshine and probably the worse version of the armed forces. Not in real life on the football field. I love all of our veterans and active military.
If I would have gave you a third option to jump off a cliff, would you have taken that?
Well, dude, at this point, Iowa State's got a new coach next year. Who knows how many new players they're going to have, how many new coaches they're going to have. If you tell me right now, I'll sign up for the Liberty Bowl next year. I think that'd be a pretty good season, year one. So I can't be too much of a hypocrite.
I guess you would take that. I didn't really think about it. I haven't thought that far ahead yet about next year. We'll see what happens. A lot of changes.
Why did I even think about that? All right. Another spiral coming up on next week's edition of Bigger Than 12. Did we forget anything?
Aiden, we miss you.
Yeah, we miss Aiden. This show's always better when Aiden's here. I mean,
because he knows how to run it.
You only get an award-winning producer every now and then. You got to hold on to him when you got him. Am I right?
That is true. We got to keep him. We're going to have to scrape up the funds to pay him to come back, I guess.
This has been Bigger Than 12 here in the Channel Seed Studios. We appreciate all the support that we've gotten here at Iowa Everywhere. Sorry. Oh my gosh, where'd you go, Derek? All right, I screwed this up. Let's get out of here. This has been Bigger Than 12 on Iowa Everywhere in the Channel Seed Studios.